Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Bwaaa!
Bwaaa trash fight all through the night, deep in the heart of Texas. The trailer park is nice and dark, deep in the heart of Texas. That drinks his brew and he spits his chew, deep in the heart of Texas. The TV blares, but no one cares, deep in the heart of Texas. Here we go!
Hello there. Welcome to Bwaaa, a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. I am Mike.
And I'm Rusty.
Rusty, Season 2, Episode 13, Snow Job.
Yeah, the debut of Joe Jack.
Mm-hmm. I got a question about Joe Jack for you, too, when we come to
honey. All right, honey.
So we're starting off at, well, the first thing we see is the First Texas Bank. The time and temperature is 40 degrees, and it's falling fast.
Yeah, it's cold outside.
Yeah. You see a guy with an Olympic torch, or what you think is an Olympic torch, go by. And then you see the big banner for Strickland's Summer and January Picnic at the Arlen City Public Park.
It sounds like a really shitty picnic.
Well, yeah.
It's pretty cold in January, even in Texas.
Yeah, it's cold as hell. And they're passing the torch one at a time down the line, just like they do in the Olympics, and they're getting ready to light the big cooker, so that they can start the picnic. And of course, Buck Strickland's the guy. People are just talking and talking, and Buck introduces himself. I'm Buck Strickland, and if you don't recognize me, you're at the wrong event.
Which is Stephen Root.
Yeah, everybody thinks that's so funny.
I thought it was pretty funny.
He says, now the assistant manager of the 5 Strickland Propane branches and I welcome you to our annual winter picnic. Now, let me ask you something.
Winter picnic.
He has this big apron on. Who's the guy in the circle? Is that him, younger?
Maybe. I didn't notice that. That was something that you're paying way more attention than I was.
Some guy's face.
I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that.
Right there in the middle.
I have to rewatch that.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that it's him, like 40 years ago or whatever. He says, we have gathered here to celebrate propane, God's gas.
God's gas.
And who could ignite the celebration better than our senior assistant manager, Mr. Hank Hill? Hank, could you do the honors? And of course, Hank is
he'd be honored.
Totally honored.
Be honored.
Yeah, I'd be honored.
Anything we hear that he's got him to do, he's going to be honored.
Absolutely. And then we hear the wind start howling and things really picking up. And Peggy and Luann are over there just freezing to death.
Nobody's got jackets on.
No, that's what I don't
Everybody's
understand.
dressed like it's, normal. Like, they don't even have a jacket or a sweater or anything.
She tells Hank to hurry up and turn winter into summer. I guess lighting the grill is going to do that?
No, it's not a grill. Remember when they light it, it lights all those
that's right.
heaters.
You're right. It lights
those
all
propane
the heaters.
It's like a propane heating system.
See?
An outdoor heating system.
There you go. It's those
that's
big
fancy as hell for Texas.
It really is. It's fancy because we don't get to use them very often.
Well, not only that, like where in Texas would that be a permanent fixture at unless you're in a rich neighborhood, like the one-off chance that you get a cold enough. Well, I say that. We had that winter a while back that I wouldn't have minded some propane.
Well, that's true, and they're talking about another one coming, which scares the crap out of me.
This year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Batten down the hatches.
Batten down the hatches.
Ask
indeed.
Hank to pull up with some propane.
Ask somebody to pull up. I want Joe Jack with my
Joe Jack.
propane. I can rely on Joe Jack. She says to turn winter into summer. All the people are clapping and cheering. You see the whole thing ignite.
Starts lighting,
yeah. And then you get Vickers, which Vickers seems to me to be another version of what was the kid that was flying the airplane outside the tunnels? His dad.
They're
always like
I
this.
can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But the guys that sound real nasally.
They're always like the same guy. They're always the weasel guy.
You.
Well, it's like
my dad's here.
It's like the guy from CPS or whatever that came in the first one.
Oh, my wrists.
It's like the same
I have carpal
guy.
tunnel. Yeah, I know what you mean.
He says, well, Mr. Strickland, it's like you always find the exact right moment to flip those burgers. And I think you'll also find now the exact right moment for my total quality management proposal. And Buck's like, oh, for God's sake. And then here comes Hank, and he obviously knows what kind of person Vickers is. He says, hey, Vickers, who do you like for the Super Bowl next year, the Doopy Loopies or the Shimmy Shammies? And he and Mr. Strickland enjoy a pretty good laugh at Vickers' expense. But Vickers is like, okay, I know, very funny, but I like the Bills. And that makes him laugh again. Because at this time, the Bills had lost 4 Super Bowls. So, I think
Jim Kelly?
Jim Kelly. A couple of them were to Dallas. So that's where we're getting all of this.
So just to butt in for just a second. So you have the voice of Lloyd Vickers, which this is the one and only appearance of Lloyd Vickers, but his voice, Lloyd Vickers. So actually, the guy that plays Lloyd Vickers' voice is a guy called David Herman. He plays Michael Bolton in Office Space.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's an original cast member also from Mad TV from 1995.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember him on Mad TV, but I certainly remember him from Office Space. Yeah,
okay,
I remember
but
him.
He was in Office Space.
Yeah,
too,
100%.
But he's also did voice work for Bob's Burgers, Brickleberry, Futurama.
He's the one that talks about Michael Bolton and calls him an ass clown.
Yeah.
Next thing we see is a lone snowflake fall from the sky. It falls onto Bobby, and Bobby's like, look, Mom, ash. There must be a volcano somewhere. Now, Peggy, she doesn't know exactly what's happening, but she snaps into action pretty quick. She's like, huh? Oh, it's snowing. Oh, no. Peggy is on it because she says, okay, I've been through this before in Montana. And I forget that she's from Montana.
Yeah, she's from Montana. They say this is the first time they mention Montana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they say that, but I don't think so. I think that I remember them mentioning Montana in the Westy Side Story.
Yeah.
Whenever
I thought they had mentioned
the episode with the dog. So I don't know how correct that is because I'm pretty sure in the Westy Side Story. So
now in
fact checker, I'm fact checking your fact check. So
go back and checker.
Go back and check Westy Side Story and tell me what you find.
So her best advice is for no one to lick any flagpoles.
That's really
good
not lick any
advice.
flagpoles.
Really good advice.
Don't do that.
Now, let me ask you something. How long had, and this may be something you need to look up, how long had Christmas Story been out when this happened?
What year did Christmas Story come out?
Yeah.
In the 70s maybe, right?
No, it was the 80s. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's probably about...
I think that's
at least probably about 15 years. I
think that's where we're getting this from, though.
I think so.
You know the scene in A Christmas Story where the kid runs up to the light pole, he's dared to stick his tongue on the light pole. That was
83 when that came out. So it's been it's
5,
a good 15
years.
That's a good 15 years. This is 1997.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I thought it was
1997.
Oh, you're right.
That's 83.
You're right. I was thinking 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been out a while. So that story is going around where kids lick flagpoles and their tongue sticks to it.
Yeah, tongue sticks to them. Yeah.
So Hank is like...
They're all teenagers about this time. All the kids that grew up watching are all teenagers, like getting ready to graduate high school.
Hank is taken aback a little bit by the fact that there's snow. He says the Texans aren't prepared for this kind of nightmare, sir. We got to work fast. I'll unlock the gas reserves while you rally the troops.
Choke it down, people. This is a propane emergency. No time for chewing. If we don't get the heat to the people, you can bet the electric company will.
That's right.
That was funny. Joe Jack, fire up the bobtail. And then she tells him, don't be a hero, Hank. And he goes,
it's like he's going off the war.
Cinematic.
They get the big kiss.
I like it. I really like
all the cars are hitting each other in the parking lot. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, this one actually was written by... I think it was written by 4 different people or 3 different people. No, 4 different people.
Okay.
It was written by Cheryl Holliday, Alan R. Cohen, Alan Friedland, and Jim Dotrieve.
Okay.
Which Jim Dotrieve is a longtime writer of the show. Cheryl Holliday, she actually voices, I think, Velma Throckmorton.
Velma Throckmorton.
She does the voice for Velma Throckmorton.
She's coming up.
Yeah.
So Bobby wants to be included. So he says, "Can I come too, Dad?" He said, "You bet, son." And Hank's already on the side of the bobtail. And he and Joe Jack is driving. Hank's kind of hanging off the side like it's a warplane or a army tank
like a
or
helicopter
something. Yeah, helicopter.
Like that,
He says, "If you can catch bobtail on the fly, you're welcome at Strickland Propane. Come on."
Yeah, it's
and Bobby
cinematic. I really think, it's like a movie. These couple scenes in this, they're like that. Reminds me of like watching a movie.
Bobby is running as fast as he can, which ain't very fast. And he has to tell him, say, "Joe Jack, slow down. Slow way down.
Slow way down.
Slower. Just stop the truck."
Stop the truck. Yeah.
Finally
the boy
gets
ain't
him.
right.
Yeah.
He's wheezing.
We go over to Bill, and he's
in shorts.
He's in shorts sliding around on the front yard. And it's a winter wonderland. And then Boomhauer, man, I tell you what, don't go down to Antarctica and go and get that dang thing where the big old bottom like he got.
Yeah, ain't gonna get that dang thing to work with a big old bottom like he's got. Yeah.
And then we're back at Strickland Propane.
Hank
is fielding the calls that are coming in.
Yeah, propane will not freeze.
Propane will not freeze.
It is a natural gas.
And then he hangs up the phone and he says, "Good news, Buck. We can get propane to the nursing homes by diverting it away from the Museum of Modern Art." If anyone asks,
it was a tough choice.
That's right. And they all have a hearty laugh. And then Buck talking to Bobby.
That's why your dad's one of the greats.
Yeah.
Just watch and learn, son. Maybe someday you'll be sitting in that seat.
And Bobby's like, then where would he sit?
Yeah. And he said the way things are going, he'd be in the boss's chair. And then Hank's uncomfortable with being in anybody's chair.
No.
He said, I'll just keep the chair I have and wheel it over to your desk.
And then Buck, he's like, "Whoo, I'm beat. I think I'm going to call it a day. I just got to finish up my paperwork." And he goes to knock off the day on the calendar, which it says January 1998.
This scene's kind of weird because, I mean, I've looked at a lot of half-naked women on calendars.
Which is what we got here.
Even some with fully naked women on calendars. Yeah. But I've never, ever started to perspire so,
the naked calendar has always been weird to me.
Well, whether it's weird or not, like I think it's even weirder to sweat all over it.
Well, I think we're about to see what's going on.
I think it serves its purpose, but I just don't understand why he's sweating so hard.
He's over there.
He gives himself an infarction looking at a Christmas calendar.
He says infarction. Bobby says, "Hey, Dad, how come I never got a Strickland calendar?" And Hank's like, "You're not old enough." So Buck is just over there going through.
Why, hello, Miss November.
Yeah, and Miss November.
Be careful. That's flammable.
Miss November is on there riding a propane tank. Yeah. And Hank's like, it's getting a little uncomfortable. Bobby, why don't you go outside and make snow angels? And so Bobby goes outside to make snow angels. And then you see old Buck again.
Yeah, look at the wings on this piece of chicken.
Yeah, and he is sweating up a storm.
Sweating heavy.
Yeah. Hank is like, "Well, she certainly is attractive, sir, but I'm not sure it's an appropriate way to be talking about our cleaning lady," which I didn't understand that joke. He's flipping through the calendar, and then all of a sudden there's a picture of their cleaning lady.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's weird.
Yeah. No, he reminds me of a drunk redneck at Taco Bell sweating there waiting for his food.
Oh yeah, he's waiting for his frijoles.
Yeah, waiting for his beans.
So here comes one of the bobtails, and Bobby's out there making snow angels, and now Buck is really starting to wheeze and all of this, and he's like, "Merry Christmas! I see your stockings are hung with care," and then here he goes. He's gonna have an infarction. And Hank is like, "Oh, Buck, Jesus." And he goes, "No, my God, I'll call an ambulance. We'll get to the hospital. Hang on, Buck. We still got a lot of propane to sell together."
Yeah, and when he calls the emergency room, if you notice on the phone, he dials 900 instead of 911.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, that's another fact from the fact checker. Yeah.
And then
Artie.
Buck ends up out in the snow, and he's just convulsing next to Bobby. And Bobby's like, "Mr. Strickland, you got to use both arms like me." So we have a commercial break there. Then we're back at the Hill House, and Hank's putting on a tie with the help of Peggy, and he's asking her, "What do you think if I show up at the hospital with a tie on?" It's kind of ghoulish. It's like saying, "Why aren't you dead yet?" On the other hand, we're in a crisis, and I have to give orders,
which is really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of assumes that he's going to be put in charge. And Peggy's like, "You're already talking like a man in charge. This is so exciting." Oh, and save the tie for the funeral.
Yes, it gets really exciting.
For the funeral. And
she likes excitement. She likes the drama.
I'm going to ask you another question.
Okay.
Who is the guy in the giant army picture right behind him as she's putting the tie on him? I'm only assuming.
Oh, that's his dad.
It's got to be Cotton.
That's
right?
That's pre-shin. That's pre-shin removal.
Pre-shin removal. Cotton.
That's pre-Fitty Men. Yeah. That's before he killed Fitty Men.
That's at 40 Men. Now we're over at the hospital. Strickland's got the oxygen mask on. He's looking pretty rough. He's hooked up to all the machines, and he says, "All right, everybody, listen up. Strickland's a family. I'm like the daddy, and the daddy ain't feeling so good."
That made me laugh. Yeah. I'm like the daddy,
I'm like
and
the
daddy ain't feeling so good.
He says, "So it's up to you kids to become leaders. Make sure daddy's business don't get run into the ground. Do you work for me?" And then all of them are like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Strickland.
I'm your daddy."
Well, it's actually Vickers that's looking at him. He says, "Do you work for me?" And he goes, "Yes, sir, Mr. Strickland." He goes, "I'm your daddy.
I'm your daddy."
All 5 of you kids are going to have to pitch in because it's 3 guys, 2 girls." And he says, take on some added responsibility. Could you ladies step outside for a minute, please? I got a shot coming, and it's just rude, to make 2 such pretty gals stare at my bare backside.
All right, now the skirts are out in the hallway. We can get down to business.
Yeah, he just wants the women out in the hallway.
Yeah,
Buck is a little misogynistic.
A little more than a little.
He says, "Hank, you're my right-hand man. I need you to feed my hounds."
Promise me you'll take care of my hounds, Hank.
That is a big slap in the face to Hank.
I think it's a huge slap. Well, it's not a huge slap in the face yet. So right after he tells Hank, "Will you take care of my dogs?" he tells Vickers, "You run the company, the whole shebang. Let's see what that fancy business degree of yours is worth." Yep. And you know what? I think that's a common theme in blue collar jobs and some blue collar jobs, factory stuff and stuff like that, where you'll have the guy with the degree come off the street and he'll take the position that the guy that's been working for 10 years in the position.
That's kind of a common thread with Mike Judge too. Like all of this blue collar versus white collar, all of that kind of stuff. Because if you look at Office Space, if you look at the one, Extract. The one, it's always like blue collar versus white collar type stuff. But Hank is very taken back. He's like, "You're putting him in charge? Mr. Strickland, I've been with the company for 15 years. And he says, "Hank, I let you light the grill. Right now, my hounds are starving."
The hounds are starving.
It's a rough one, man.
It is rough. It's really, really rough. And I kind of feel for Hank.
I did feel
he
for
put
Hank
all
too.
that time in, and, that's supposed to be his position. And matter of fact, he probably should be the one actually running the company from the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And Buck should be out, I don't know, chasing people.
Bucking, whatever he does.
Bucking. So we're back in the alleyway. Dale has bought a ton of canned food because he figures this is the end of the world.
A shit ton of it, yeah.
He says, "I bought enough canned food to last us through this storm and the civil unrest that will inevitably follow. Hope you like water chestnuts."
Yeah. What is a chestnut?
So it's those little white things in, like you get Chinese food, the little white crunchy things. I cannot stand.
Where do they
those
come?
things.
Where does it come
from? I don't
from,
know, but I can't stand them.
If you know where water chestnuts come from, please contact us at BWAAAKOTH on all social media platforms.
There you go. That's right. Tell us about your water chestnut history. I will not order anything that has water chestnuts in it.
Oh, I like crispy stuff. It reminds me of celery or stuff like that. I just like crunchy things, like potato chips.
Like
it's like a healthy potato chip.
I like that stuff too, but my wife loves them. I will not abide them. I will not abide a water chestnut.
I'll bite them.
So Dale comes over to Peggy and he's like, "Hey, neighbor, I brought you something." She says, "Oh, water chestnuts."
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
He says, "As a matter of fact, there is something you can give me in return." But she didn't say that, but he says, "I only have a 3-week supply of propane." How damn long does he think this snow is going to last? This snow that is barely on the ground, by the way, because Peggy's over there throwing salt out, and there's hardly anything on the ground.
Well, that's the thing, and it's real funny. And anytime in Texas you get, and it happens at hurricane season, not so much where we're at for hurricane season, but if they say there's going to be a lot of rain or anything off of a hurricane that comes this way with lots of wind and rain, people go down and clear the shelves.
I guess it's the same thing here with heat like versus the north. Like if people ever come down here, they just remark on how hot it is. Like I recently went to California and it was 100 degrees there one day, and I literally thought people were going to die. I mean, they were just like, they were in and out with all the water and the patting themselves. And I'm out there outside and I'm like, moderate, it's really not that bad.
You can handle it.
There was a breeze,
Yeah.
You go outside here like during
muggy.
the day last week. Oh my
it's
God.
bad.
It was like 110 and there's no breeze. There's no nothing.
And it's been really muggy.
Well, now,
it's
yeah.
just the rain or whatever.
Because it started to rain finally for the first time in about a month and a half.
We're supposed to get a lot.
Yeah, we're supposed to get a lot of rain. Well, that's the thing around here. We get no rain and then we get a lot of rain. And the problem is the ground can't absorb it quickly.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of flash flooding and stuff like that. So
Well,
I'm glad I live on top of a mountain.
While you're hanging out in your next flash flood, don't forget to check out our podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you're cooped up for 3 weeks,
We got 3 weeks worth of episodes for you at least.
Yeah, in the civil unrest, make sure you listen to our podcast. Download them first though, because you never know, your internet may go out because of all the rain.
Get you a 3 week supply of them.
So he is basically asking Peggy to hook him up with some propane
Because now he gave her water chestnuts.
She owes
so
him.
how
Yeah.
many? Okay, I wonder what the exchange rate is on water chestnuts.
It
How
can't
many
be
water
good.
chestnuts does she have to give him for like one tank of
What's
propane?
the water chestnut to gas ratio?
Yeah.
She says, well, I'm sorry, Dale. Hank may be in charge now because she still thinks he is. But you're not going to get any special treatment. Hank's priorities are propane first, family second, friends third, in that order. Dale does not like that. He says, fine, he's just going to have to barter for it.
Yeah, he's got to barter.
He walks off. Bill,
You like
still over
pumpkin
there.
pie filling?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says, Bill, you like pumpkin pie filling. Now, the truck comes skidding down the road to the house, and I think Hank's doing this on purpose, skidding around in the ice.
Yeah.
He's just blowing off some steam here.
Yeah, he's just sliding around,
He's
having a
pretty
good time.
pissed at this
Yeah, he's
point,
mad.
And he has
Rightfully so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well, I don't know. Is it rightfully so? Should Hank be mad?
15 years, man.
But he's not the one to be entitled. He doesn't ever feel entitled.
I get that, but he's put in 15 years with Buck Strickland, who's been Buck Strickland.
Well,
the
that
whole
guy
time.
paid $50,000 a semester and put in 4 years of college to get a good position at a job somewhere.
Yeah, but he's a tool. So Peggy sees him come up and she goes, Hank, what's going on? She gets in the truck with him and he says Strickland picked Lloyd Vickers as interim manager, and she is just aghast at this point. She's like, what? Why?
Wow, the suck-up's not even fit to feed Strickland's dogs.
Yeah, and he has to tell her that
that's like
unfortunately,
a boom shot right in the. That's a kidney shot.
Yeah, he has to tell her that that's his job. And
Well,
she's
that's
like,
my department now.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it has its own set of challenges. So we transfer back over to Strickland Propane. Here is Vickers. He is giving a presentation. He's put the letters P, C, and P up on his big flip chart.
Yep.
And he says, does anyone know what this means? One of the people says, you're going to be doing drug testing? He says, no, you're thinking of PCP, but yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
PDP. Sorry, he had put PDP on there. He says, peak demand pricing. Basically, he's saying that the weather has caused a shortage, and so they're going to price gouge people.
This is like a foreshadow
Boy, you're not kidding,
event
huh?
because right after we had our freeze that February,
yeah, man,
all the prices on energy went up that summer.
It went insane here.
Even this summer,
like people, well,
man, the electric prices were way I paid like over probably like $150, almost to $200 more on average than I paid last year.
Yeah. Well,
summer.
we had that huge freeze. And they were saying that people's energy bills were like $5,000 for the month and stuff like that because they had that variable pricing. And so when it went way up,
for the variable price,
Encore was like, oh, screw
I'm
y'all.
lucky to be contracted. I did. It did kill like my bill that week.
Yeah.
And it was weird that it killed my bill because my electricity was off for like over half the week. But that was one of the highest bills I had because as soon as the power would cut on, because it would cut on and off and on and off. And as soon as it would cut on, the house is at like 40 and then it would get up to about 75 and then the electricity would cut off again and it would just fight for like a week like that.
Keep doing. We were unlucky in the fact that our power was literally off for 5 days.
Damn.
We wore the same clothes. I mean, it was
done that anyway,
freezing
right?
in the house.
No,
well, yeah, sure. But I had like 5 layers on, you know, and we would sleep in them and then we'd put a bunch of blankets on us. We cooked everything in the fireplace. I
grew up in a house with like I grew up in a really old house, like it was built in like the 40s, and it had no insulation, and
a lot of drafts.
I remember it being cold enough to see my breath at night when I was a kid, when I was going to bed at night in the winter.
Oh wow!
So I don't know. I was all right at 40. It was all right for me. Like being 40 degrees inside the house was all right.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can cover up, I guess.
Other than it gets a little colder than that.
Yeah.
But my wife and kid, man, they were, oh, it's cold. It's cold. I'm like, it's okay. It's not. We're not. Like, you can't see your breath.
Well, it
You're
was
okay.
pretty damn cold. Like
It was.
the snow had
It was
turned to
weirdly
ice.
cold.
And it was, boy, there was ice everywhere.
It was weird to see that much snow in Texas. That was the first time I've ever seen anything like that.
Well, you're not kidding. It was rough. So he calls it supply and demand, and Hank fires back. He says, yeah, well, in the real world, that's called sticking it to the people when they need us most. Vickers pulls him aside for some quote-unquote dialogue, and he tells him that
I hate people that say that.
And he
Use
says,
the word can we dialogue for a second?
Dialogue? Yeah, you go dialogue over there.
Yeah.
He says, so I'm working out some flex time so you can feed Mr. Strickland's dogs and clean their mess. Vickers has gotten some power go straight to his head.
Yeah, he's got to be an asshole.
Yeah,
You know,
being a real
I might have slapped him for that. Like
Yeah,
in
it's
Hank's
pretty rough.
situation, like Hank being Hank, I feel like that was like kind of him spitting on Hank's shoes. You know, that's pretty shitty of him to say it like that.
Hank is leaving, and as he's reaching into the poo grabber's box so he can pick up the dog's mess, he says, look at me, or look, let me tell you something only you can learn from experience. You got to treat people with respect. You know who taught me that? Buck Strickland. So even in his worst time, Hank is still taking up for Buck Strickland.
Yeah, and then he says something terrible after that. He says he has the nerve to give me flex time. That's
out in the alley. He's telling the guys. He goes,
out in the alley,
yeah, the flex time. That's what they give pregnant women
and other disableds.
Disableds. That's a little rough.
Yeah, that's a little rough. Well, I don't know if it's rough saying disableds or calling pregnant women disabled.
Well, that's true too. It's both.
Insinuating that. Yeah.
Now let me ask you something. All four of them, being Hank, Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer, are standing out in the alley. Dale has his ski mask on with his cigarette hanging out of it.
He does.
Is that the one you used for the avatar, or does yours have a ball gag?
My avatar was actually that image.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I thought. I thought it was the one with the ski
image
mask.
with the ski mask and a cigarette. I don't know if it's that now, but no, I don't think it is now. It's me now. But
Bill
was that.
I can't remember Dale having a ball gag, but anyway, that for some reason
I'm
that went
sure
through my
there's
head.
one there.
Probably. I'm sure there's fan art. Yeah.
I'm sure there's I'm sure there's probably there might be even be an episode.
He says something about the flex time, and Bill's like, I don't know, Hank. Just sounds like he's trying to empower you. See, that's the fifth building block of total quality management. Which
bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Why in the hell does Bill know that? Why does he know that it's total quality management?
Because he's in the military. In the military, he's done. He's probably they make you sit through a lot of leadership trainings and stuff. I'm sure he's had one or two of those.
Yeah, they all tend to agree with Bill, and Hank fires off with, "Don't be so quick to defend this guy because he's going to raise your propane prices by 10 cents a gallon," and that flips the whole group. The group is not happy about that. Even Boomhauer's like, what dang old hot tub, man. He says, well, I'll tell you what, when Strickland get back from the hospital and finds out about this, he's going to have another heart attack. Dale says, somebody's got to teach that Vickers a lesson. If you want,
I can show you how to make I can show you how to make a bomb out of a roll of toilet paper and a stick of dynamite.
A roll of toilet paper and a stick of dynamite. That's just a bomb.
That's just a stick of dynamite with toilet paper attached to it. Yeah.
So we are back in the office, and Bobby is copying the stapler, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
He's
Taking
got the
copies of
stapler
it,
in the pop. He says, why didn't Buck Strickland pick you to be the boss, Dad?
Yeah, this is a tough one for him.
It is.
He's got to,
This is even tougher.
With
Yeah. He says,
Bobby here.
well, sometimes in life, curveballs, such, that's your ride, boy. Because here comes Joe Jack. Yeah. He says, hey, Joe Jack, can you give my boy a lift? And he says, sorry, Hank, damn Vickers, put tattlers in the truck. Now, let me ask you about Joe Jack's voice here.
Okay.
Because it seems weird.
All right.
It does not seem like the Joe Jack I remember. I don't know if it's the same guy or whatever, but
Joe Jack is voiced by Toby Huss.
Yeah,
and
same guy all the way through.
Yes, same guy all the way through.
Okay.
He doesn't have a whole he doesn't appear a ton. He's got 3 episodes in season 2, 1 in season 3, 3 in season 4, 3 in season 7, 1 in season 8, 1 in season 9, 3 in season 10, and 1 in 13.
Well,
but it's Toby Huss, and that's kind of like indicative of a bunch of different characters. It's sometimes it's some of the same people that are doing the fills.
I think they develop them as they go.
Yeah,
too.
some of them get a little bit of development.
Because
I feel Joe Jack gets a little bit of development.
Joe
sure.
Jack gets a lot of development because he's like, I tell you what, honey. I mean, he gets something else. This does not sound like him, but he says that he put Taddlers in the truck, and Taddler is just like a governor. Have you ever driven a truck with a governor or a Taddler on it?
No, I've never driven. I thought to me a Taddler, in my mind, they were putting like a GPS. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's kind of what it seems like. I think a Taddler and a governor are kind of the same thing. Like the only thing I've ever driven that was close to that is on a U-Haul. Like if you rent a U-Haul, it'll only let you go to like 65, 70 miles an hour.
It didn't matter how hard you hold that gas pedal there.
But that's more of a governor.
It was fun though. I was riding with my son back from West Texas in a U-Haul, bringing some stuff back that we had got from my wife's family, some furniture or something. But the whole way back, I would look over at him and he would be kind of like dozing off, and I'd slap his chest and I'd slam my foot to the floorboard. I'm like, we're going so fast. And he would be like this. Like he would wake up all confused, and then he would look at the speedometer and he'd be like, "Oh, we're only doing 60." I felt like you acted like we were doing 100 miles an hour.
That's really great. I guess a Taddler and a governor are two different things, though, because Hank is he's like, what? He can't do that. And Bobby's asking what a Taddler is, and he says it's a meter that tells the boss when a driver stops and for how long. It's designed to prevent goof-offs, lunch breaks, and it prevents lunch breaks and unscheduled stops. He says all the things the drivers union fought so hard for. So now we go over to Strickland's house, and we hear the dogs barking, and this is one of my favorite Peggy scenes of the entire series. I just love when Peggy is a freak. And she is inside behind the sliding glass door, and she is pretending to be a cat.
Yep.
It's so that the 40 dogs that Buck Strickland owns are all over there barking at her. She's like, meow, look at me, I'm a kitty.
Meow, meow, meow. Yeah, she's hopping up and down around the window.
I've got whiskers, I'm a kitty cat.
Run, honey, they've seen you.
When
they start barking,
he's got the whole bag of Dr. Dog kibble.
Yeah, Dr. Dog kibble.
And he's putting it out, and then the dogs hear it, and one of them sees him, and like you say, Peggy's like, oh my God, run, they've seen you. And the dogs come after him.
Well, I thought she was doing that because they were mean as hell and they were going to bite him. I didn't know they were going to attack him and lick him and just slobber all over him.
Well, I'm assuming that, he's got the food, so they probably saw him as not as big a threat, especially as a human-sized kitty.
Well, it's probably not the first time he's fed that man's dog either. I wouldn't expect.
That. Yeah. So next thing we see is Hank. He's in one of those outside sinks, whatever you call that, and he's washing his arms off. And he says, "This is ridiculous. There's a snow crisis going on, and I'm sitting here scrubbing off dog slobber."
Do not blame yourself.
No.
I like how she says, "Do not blame yourself."
Do not blame yourself. Yeah, we get a little bit of that in the next episode. She says, Strickland is the fool who passed you over. And he said, well, no one bats 1,000. Strickland's a good man. He's the only other guy at the firm with the same passion of propane as I do. And then Peggy spots something. She spots it.
Electric stove.
She says that the stove is not propane, it's electric. And Hank cannot believe it.
No, it literally... he says, it better be self-cleaning because I think I'm going to vomit. So, he enters this
it's rough.
Existential crisis for the rest of the episode here all the way to the end.
All right, so we're about to go to the hospital, but first let's take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
Bwaaa tries to fight all through the night, deep in the heart of Texas.
All right, we are back, and we are in the hospital with Hank and Buck, and Hank is just, he can't believe it. He's like, how could you, sir? How could you buy an electric stove after everything that propane has given you? And Strickland's like, dang it, Hank, we're both men of the world. I got a whole bunch of electric appliances. They came with the house.
He
says, but Mr. Strickland, you've always said that propane is God's gas. It's a higher calling. Oh, hell, Hank, it's a business. It's about making as much money as you can while you can. That's why I let Vickers put on them Taddlers.
Them Taddlers.
And this is funny, but it's not exactly politically correct what happens
No, not at all.
He says, what, you knew about that? He said, well, sure. I've been using Tattlers on and off for years. Hell, back in the old days, we used midgets. Stuck them behind the seats with a bucket of ice to keep them cool.
That's so OSHA came in and put them poor little people on the street. That's what they like to be called, Hank. Little people.
That's fantastic. He says, Hank responds, with the 15 years I've worked with you have been the happiest years of my life. Now I found out it was all a lie. I never thought I'd say this, but Mr. Strickland, I'm not coming into work tomorrow.
You mean you quit, or are you taking a personal day? And as he's walking out the door, he stops. When he can't see him, he looks straight ahead. Just, you heard me.
Yeah.
He couldn't even say I quit, though.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing is that even though that's something, that it would be reasonable for him to want to leave that job after 15 years. And then
absolutely. If he sees that there's no
chance, the thing is not only did he get passed up for a position that's rightfully his, he got passed up for a position that's rightfully his, and the person that's doing it is failing miserably at the same time.
Sure. So we're back at Hank's house, and he's packing up the car. He's going to go on a trip. He says, he's talking to Luann.
Super dramatic,
which is weird because I don't go to Luann with my issues.
Well, not only that, it's just any kind of emotion like this where I just need a couple of days at the lake to figure out what I was meant to do in this life.
At the lake.
All Eeyore. I mean, he went all Eeyore on us.
Yeah, he's like, I've been taking a good hard look at propane business, and it's sort of like seeing a woman with her makeup off. And Luann
just some dumb story. Sharona Johnson came to beauty school once with her makeup off, and nobody told her.
She just giggling like a schoolgirl, though.
That was mean.
Yeah, that was mean. Here comes Bobby. He says, Dad, I got the stove. Where's the propane thingy that goes into it? And Hank he's completely out of it, man. He's like, put it back, son. There's no room for propane on this trip.
There's no room for propane
honestly,
on this trip.
It's super
so
sad when you see Hank go this way,
It is sad. There's no propane allowed here today, boy.
So we're back at Strickland Propane, and Vickers is telling Joe Jack and all them what they need to do. He says Joe Jack and all the drivers are there turning in their taddlers from the trucks, and he says, "Now listen to me, Joe Jack.
Too. They're huge.
Yeah,
huge boxes."
He says we're just 2 steps from win-win. Now, this is one of those negotiating things. You got win-win, you got win-lose, you got win-win, lose-lose, whatever, all that stuff. If anybody watches The Office, they've seen that.
Yeah, for sure. And then his 2 options are: step 1, you put the taddler boxes back in the truck. Step 2, you keep your jobs. And
Joe Jack,
I got a third step for you, honey. We quit. And all the drivers quit with him. But it's really funny, the next line, I've got a whole alumni newsletter full of friends I can call on that'll drive these trucks just for life experience.
You know what? That is something we're living through right now, though. We've got a whole generation that are doing things just for life experience. You know, I see that all the time.
Well, and more power to them if that's what's fun.
But I don't know that they're going to drive those trucks for life experience, though.
Nah, well, there's actually it's really funny. I was on a rabbit hole on YouTube, and it's a truck driving rabbit hole.
Really?
And there's people out there that there's literally truck driving influencers.
No, come on.
So there's people that they have millions and millions of views on videos of them discussing the life of a truck driver, driving trucks. And
I've seen something like that on Twitch. Like they'll put the camera in the front of the truck and they'll just talk to them.
No, they do it on YouTube. They create content completely have a whole YouTube channel with catered content for truck driving.
Huh.
Like there's one guy that's a truck driving mechanic, and he'll put, because he drives such a variety of older trucks, like all the cool old, like the stuff that I remember from like the 80s and the 70s, like these Peterbilts and stuff like that. And
Mac,
he puts the camera up above his head, and it shows him doing all the gear shifting and showing all the crazy dashboards and stuff out of all these random trucks. Oh, there's even a guy that has he's a content creator, but he has the truck driving simulator game, and he has a whole cab built out.
Those just baffle my brain. That truck driving is a simulation game. That's just crazy.
I don't know.
To me.
I've played them. I've played them for a long time. Oddly enough, there was one. I don't know. It's just weirdly fun.
I don't know
why. It is really weirdly fun.
I always wanted to play, and this was on Twitch. I always wanted to play one of those home remodeling games.
Yeah.
And pretend like I was Chuck Gaines. or Chip Gaines.
Oh,
while I was doing it. Chuck Gaines.
Oh, they have them.
That's his
They have
brother.
those games.
His brother's not
well,
so
that's what you would
well-known.
have to
Chuck
be.
Gaines.
You'd have to be Chuck
I'd be
Gaines.
Chuck Gaines.
For trademark purposes, you have to be Chuck Gaines. There you go, guys. Chuck Gaines coming soon on Twitch.
Gaines coming soon. That's
That'd
right.
be great. That'd be great.
Somebody's
actually.
going to grab that
That'd
up.
be good content. No, we're gonna grab it up before they can. I'm making it now so nobody can get it.
Chuck Gaines, brother of Chip.
Hell yeah.
So Joe Jack says he drops the big bomb here on Vickers, and he says, I guess your friends are hazmat certified too.
Yep, gotta have a hazmat, CDL,
Vickers
all
has
that.
no idea what that is. He's like, hazmat? And so the next thing we see is
Buck
He
rolling
is
around.
pissed.
Yeah, he's pissed. He just got through with this infarction and he's getting kind of really
he
worked
calls him a
up.
moron.
Yeah, he calls him a moron. You need a special license to drive a propane truck.
Yeah, he says, it's all right, sir. I can get to yes. I'll hire a bunch of new drivers right away. And he says, you listen to me, god dang it. It's a god dang height of the season. There's no drivers from here to god dang city. And then he screams and fires him and then chunks the phone in the St. Mary's donation bucket right there in the hospital
sister.
hall.
Yeah, here you go, sister.
All right, so we are out at the lake now, and we're at Ma and Pa's General Store. Bobby is...
I like Mon Pa here. Yeah, it's a good scene.
Bobby's griping. He says, I told you we should have stopped at Megalo Mart.
They don't even have a separate candy department. God damn.
Peggy, it says the weirdest thing. She's like, Bobby Hill, we're a remote cabin out in the wilderness. We will make our own candy.
We will make our own.
What does that even mean?
I don't even
She's
know what
gonna
that
make her
means.
own
I have
candy.
no clue. Well, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know what she's going on about.
We see Hank over there eyeballing a bag of Ma and Pa charcoal briquettes. I always thought it was weird how briquettes is spelled, but Briquettes. That's just a weird name to me, briquettes.
Burnt wood to light on fire.
She says, Hank,
that's what I always thought was funny.
It's
Is
charcoal.
that barbecue is just burnt wood. You're lighting burnt wood to start a fire.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah.
It is weird.
You got to pre-burn it before you burn it.
She comes up. I think put that on a shirt. You got to pre-burn it before you burn it.
Pre-burn charcoal.
Pre-burned charcoal. That's just dust.
Yeah.
At that point, she says, Peggy spots him looking at the charcoal briquettes, and she says, Hank, what are you doing? Put it down. Now someone might see. He says, come on, Peggy. Haven't you ever wondered what it'd like to barbecue with charcoal? And it's slightly sexual here, right?
Yeah.
She says, you mean without propane? But I don't think that.
Propane.
And then he starts just rustling those briquettes. Well, yeah, I guess I am curious.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. So back at the house,
Phone's going ringing off the hook.
The phone is ringing off the hook. That means that they all these customers have Hank's personal phone number, right? And you hear
unless
Peggy,
he's got like a forwarding service or something that
maybe.
forwards it.
But
Did they have that in the 90s? Did they have forwarding?
I'm sure. I guess so. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wasn't forwarding my phone
I wasn't
much.
forwarding phone calls in the 90s either. I wasn't screening phone calls either.
But I can just see Hank giving out his personal home phone number to all the customers, and saying,
yeah,
if
I
you
could
ever have
see
a problem
that.
after hours, just
To
call
a
me
certain
at home.
few, I'd imagine he has
Yeah.
like his you always got those customers, those certain few.
So you hear Peggy on the answering machine. This is the Hill residence. Please leave a message at the beep. You hear the beep.
Yeah. Hey,
and then
it's your old buddy Buck Strickland.
Buck Strickland.
That Vickers mucked things up worse than Jack Kennedy at Piggy Bay. When she's talking about the Bay of Pigs.
Sure.
Which I thought was funny. I mean, because that's this is the 90s. Talking about the Bay of Pigs in the 90s, I thought it was kind of odd. But
he says, so I got no drivers. I got no right-hand man. I need you,
old top.
I need you bad.
Old top.
My favorite part is Luann writing down the message, Jack Kennedy called.
Yeah, that was good. She didn't hear shit that he said. All she heard was Jack Kennedy called.
That's right. And so we're back at Ma and Pa's, and Hank is checking out, and he says, the Pa says 2124. He says, oh, darn, I only got 20. I'll just run out to the car. And Pa's like, $20, that's close enough. We don't care about $1
he
here
goes,
or there.
And I like his voice. We don't care about $1 here or there. People before pennies, I always say.
That's right.
And then his wife.
He says, well, thank you. That's good. You're
good people. And then his wife peeks out and mocks him. We don't care about $1 here or there. Now I know why they call you Paul, because you're Paul-thetic. And then he goes.
He fires back.
Yeah, and I know why they call you Ma, because you're always riding my ass. I love that.
It's pretty nice.
It reminds me of my parents. That's why I like it. It's funny.
So we see the answering machine again. It's still just going nuts. This time it's Rudy over at Goober Smooches. He says he's got no propane for his stoves.
I ain't
He's
got no
looking at
propane for my
20
stoves.
pounds of rotten ribeye. That's rough, man. Now we're back at the lake. And Hank is just he's like sad Charlie Brown. He's out on the pier,
And I really like the Bobby scene.
Well,
with Bobby here.
I love
this moment.
Hank skipping charcoal across the lake.
Yeah. That too. It reminds me of. It's almost like reminiscent of. To me, it reminds me of. Kind of like it's cinematic in a way, like kind of like Forrest Gump sitting on the park bench with the that's what it reminds me of. He's just sitting there, and then they kind of do it from the back, and they watch him skipping.
This
is a really good, and shout out to Wes Archer. This is really good, like animation directing. How they direct the animation.
Oh, it's fantastic
for a lot of the episodes, but this one specifically, I really appreciated a lot.
Bobby comes walking up, and he says, "I saved your life, Dad." Because he tried to push him into the
thing. He did the joke where he push you in, and then it said, "I saved your life."
Yeah,
and he's like, "You were gonna push me."
And
in.
Hank just doesn't even get it.
He's like,
"You were gonna push me in." He goes, "It was a joke,"
which is funny here because at this particular point, when he tells this, because he tells this joke twice in the episode.
Yeah.
In this particular point, it's not a very dangerous moment to tell this. To tell this joke. Hold that, guys. Just remember that. Just remember that this is not a very dangerous joke.
Yeah, definitely later.
And then we'll get back to that.
Peggy runs out and says she said not to disturb him. She pulls Bobby away, and then Hank kind of forlornly looks at the bag of charcoal briquettes, and he hears Pa's voice in his head. He says, we don't care about $1 here or there. People before pennies.
Yeah,
and so he just kind of comes to, people. Peggy. And she says, what is it? He says, pack up the car. I figured it all out.
Just got there. They just pulled up. They just got there.
Yeah.
He figured it out in 5 minutes. Like Peggy thought she was getting a little vacation.
He says, it's not about Tadler box or boxes or who's in charge. It's about service with a smile and making people happy. She says, oh, I knew it. You're going back to Strickland. He said, hell no. I'm going to open up a general store. And Peggy says,
Escucha me.
It's so well placed.
Peggy, yeah.
Oh, it's so well placed.
Escucha me.
Yeah. He says, you see, everything I thought I'd find in Propane, it isn't there. It's in the general store where they put people before pennies. A fella's got no money. He can't pay his bill. Well, that's good enough for us. And then that fella will tell another and another. And before you know it, we'll have customers lined up around the block. Bobby, get out here, boy. I'm leaving the propane business and open up a general store. And I love Bobby's response. He's just like, okay. That's it. That's his whole thing. Now we're back in the car, all three of them, Bobby, Hank, and Peggy. And he says, I can't do it alone, Peggy. General stores are Ma and Pa. If you're not there, people are going to make assumptions like, did Pa kill Ma?
This whole story, this whole 48 hours story he gives.
Does Pa kill Ma? He says, they're not going to want to buy batteries from me if they think you're in the back in the freezer hanging on a meat hook. Am I wrong? She said, I don't know, Hank. People do need batteries, but this is just happening so fast.
This is all just happening so fast.
What do you think about it, Ma?
We could have a section for books.
They get home, and by then she's excited. She's like, we could have a section for books, children's books, and we wouldn't even have to charge as long as the kids brought them back. He says, that's a great idea, Peggy. Kids are people. You see, you come up with a whole new customer base for our store. That's literally just a library.
That's just a library. That's all she's talking about. Or a book. Or if you want to break it down to something even basal, it is a book lending space.
Yeah. She says, oh, well, what the H? You know what? I'll do it. I'm going to go type my letter of resignation to the Arlen School Board right now.
Damn.
And Hank says, I guess I'd better write my letter. Yeah, man. Quick. She flips quick. He sits down to write his letter, and he starts it with, it is with regret. And then he sees the phone answering machine. It's got 38 messages.
38 messages.
38. And he pushes the first one, and it's Velma Throckmorton. She says her hands froze to the walker.
My hands froze to my walker, and I had to thaw them in the microwave. I want to know how she thawed her hands in the microwave.
I'm saying, right? I mean, how do you do that?
I need my propane. Yeah.
He says,
which is voiced by one of the writers.
Yeah.
Cheryl Holliday.
He says, okay, so now it is with regret. It's with deep regret. And then he hears another message. Mr. Hill, it's Hugh Jimerson.
My heat's gone out. I've tried wearing turtlenecks, but they make me look French.
They make me look French.
Where are your trucks? Yeah.
So now it's with very deep regret. Yeah. And then another one.
Letta Anderson. Hill, Mr. Hill, it's Letta Anderson. All 3 kids got the croup, and I'm clear out of... It's cold. It's real cold.
And you see him sign the letter. Yeah. But this was... he has listened to all 38 messages because Letta Anderson was message
the last
number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then comes Peggy into the room, and she's like, it's all finished, Hank. Okay, here it is. 1 resignation letter signed and self-notarized.
You know what's funny about answering machines, though?
Yeah.
The last message on the answering machine is the first person who called you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That is weird, huh? You would think you would want to hear the first message first.
Yeah, you literally have to listen to them backwards and hope that you get to the important one before it's not important anymore.
Next message. I think he's going to die. Next message. He's really sick.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
They go in the wrong order. Yeah.
So Peggy comes out. She finds the note that Hank left her, and it says, Peggy went back to work. Love, Hank Hill. I love the fact that he signs his last name.
And he signs it like he's signing something, like a check.
That's right. We see Hank walk back into
you come back to dance on my grave.
Yeah. He said, no, sir, I don't feel much like dancing. There's a town in crisis out there, and they need propane. He says, that ain't going to happen, Hank. Vickers screwed everything up, and all our drivers quit. Hank says, you know what? A real propane man doesn't know the word quit. And Buck fires back with, well, I don't know how they said it.
But them drivers ain't working here no more. Yeah.
He says, you can't drive in propane trucks because we don't have hazmat licenses. It's all over. And then he says, no, it ain't. You don't need a hazmat license to drive a truck.
And I wonder about the legality of that.
I don't think there's any legality here that we're real worried about.
I wonder if that's like able to even be done.
And why in the hell can Dale, Bill, Boomhauer, and Peggy, how do they all know how to drive a tow truck all of a sudden, And where did they get all the tow trucks would be my question.
Well, it might be the old tow truck. He goes down to the tow truck company.
I guess,
I didn't even look at the trucks to see if there was a name on them.
I didn't look at them.
But maybe he goes
Somebody
down
tell
there
us
and
what
they
the tow
did
truck company
tell us what the tow truck company name is. Maybe he goes to the tow truck company and trades propane. He's like, we'll give you a deal.
I guess, man. Or he just comes in and
or they're
they
propane
say, Hank,
powered.
what do you need?
They're propane powered trucks.
Could be.
And they have to fuel them. The tow trucks for the tow truck company, so they were like, all right, we'll let you loan them for free propane.
But they've basically
love the propane. I love the propane.
They've got all of these. They've got all of these tow trucks with the propane trucks stuck on them.
They're just ready to go.
That they're not driving propane trucks. They're driving tow trucks.
Yeah, and they're hooked up too. They're hooked and booked, ready to ride, man.
And then you see them going through the neighborhoods. You see Velma Throckmorton with her hand still stuck on a walker.
To the walker. Then you see the guy
Hugh Jimerson take off his sweater because he doesn't want to look French. And they all just laugh and cheer and all that. And then you see Bobby in the front seat with Hank. So they've got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks.
Okay, so now we come back to the danger point. So not only are they driving a tow truck, they're driving a tow truck that has gas.
That's right.
They're hauling a gas hauler.
An entire vehicle full of gas.
And Bobby yanks the steering wheel. Like, as a kid, if I ever would have touched the steering wheel, my dad would have slapped me in the mouth.
And that's just driving
a
station wagon.
driving a station wagon or whatever he was driving at the time. So and he yanks the steering wheel and goes, "Saved your life, Dad."
Yeah.
And then Hank started laughing, "Saved my life." Now I get it.
And
that was the episode.
And then we get credits.
And then
we get the tag at the end.
Yeah,
we get Peggy with, kitty. Look at me, I'm a kitty. Meow.
Meow.
It's a great episode. It's
a good one. I like it. I like a lot of the cinematic. Like I said, I like a lot of the animation direction in this one, especially like whenever they're doing the end and the trucks are going through the neighborhood. They have like the aerial shot or whatever looking down on the neighborhood. I really like that.
By the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning, no bell, no yell.
No bell, no yell.
No bell, no yell.
And they had a little ding 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 at the very end of the episode.
Oh, did they?
Episode, yeah. In the song, they had a little.
Very cool.
It was like a little flourish, I guess. It sounded different. It kind of, I don't know. I might be wrong. It might be what's normally there, but I usually don't listen to them too much past the credits if I know there's not anything there.
Yeah, I just want everybody to remember that Peggy's a kitty. That's all I ask. Peggy's a kitty.
But again, thhanks everybody for listening. That was a great episode. Yeah.
Hey, Rusty, numbers are shooting up.
Yeah, we want to.
People are listening like crazy.
Yeah, we want to shout out to everybody. Thank y'all for listening. If y'all are new listeners, we appreciate y'all checking us out.
Yeah, man, y'all are doing great.
Share it with your friends, your grandparents, everybody.
And if there's, what I want to say is if there's anything that the listeners think would make the show better, or if they want us to do something.
Yeah, we're now officially opening the suggestion line. We have 2 days now that we release episodes, and we want to give you guys a second day of content. So the second day of content is going to be wholly up to you and what you guys want. We've contemplated a few things, so we'll cook up a little bit on our own too. But we want your input on that day, that second day of content, the Friday day for content.
We're kind of thinking that Monday is our regular episode day. And then on Fridays, maybe we do an interview, maybe we do something special.
King of the Hill rumors.
Anything.
King of the Hill controversies.
You want to talk about who you talk to?
I actually am not at liberty to discuss. I'm actually not at liberty to discuss.
Okay. All right.
But so
They did mention that there's a lot going on in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the background.
The possible King of the Hill reboot.
Possible. Yeah. So there's a lot, which everybody knows. There's a lot of stuff going on on the internet about a possible reboot. So hopefully we get some interviews after a reboot or something.
Yeah.
And also, like we said, that Friday's content day is for y'all. So reach out on the social medias. Instagram is BWAAAKOTH. That's on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Yep.
And also wanted to give a shout out to one of our listeners. He's a longer time listener, and I meant to give him this shout out before.
Great.
He had posted a post for us on Reddit shouting us out, and I'd seen it. And then he's doing another one. He's going to post another one for us, he said.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I Was in a Box is his name.
Yeah,
I Was in a Box.
Yeah.
And you guys can go check out his YouTube, I Was in a Box. YouTube.com/IWasInABox.
Yeah, man.
And he actually has a King of the Hill video and is going to be creating more King of the Hill content. So
he makes some great content.
I'm going to try to invite him. See if he wants to come,
great. I'd love
come and
to
do an
talk
episode
to
with us.
Yeah, and we'd love to talk to you guys. If you guys want to shout out to us
on social media, and I'll see what I could do to get people on and stuff like that.
And we'll mention you, and we'll do whatever, man. We want this to be fun for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want more community involvement. We want to get everybody involved a little bit more than everybody is right now.
Absolutely.
And again, appreciate everybody and all the support. It's phenomenal.
You can check us out at all the social medias that Rusty just gave you. It's all the same everywhere you go. Or
BWAAAKOTH.
Right. Or you could go to roguemedianetwork.com and check out some other shows. We just appreciate you being there.
Yeah, they've got some great shows. I particularly like two of the shows that are out right now. You've got Boo Bays.
This one.
And they're doing really good. I like our show, but I like Boo Bays. I like Boo Bays.
Boo Bays is cool.
I like Bros, Foes, and Heroes. So you guys check those out. Boo Bays is a spooky movie podcast.
Yeah, horror movies.
And I'm not really a big horror movie fan, but they've made me low-key a horror movie fan now.
They're good
I started watching different stuff.
Yeah, they're good friends. And Caitlin, I've known for a very long time. She was on a former podcast that we had here on the network, and she started this one because this was kind of her passion project. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Her and Josh do a really good job of breaking down a movie almost minute by minute.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Sometimes the podcast can be longer than the movie.
And then again, shout out to Bros, Foes, and Heroes, which is you and
Zach.
Yeah, Zach.
Zach and
shout out to Zach.
Break down comic books.
That's great.
Zach brings me a comic book person
or wild
thing that I've never heard of.
They're always wild, too. It's always stuff like Archie versus Alien versus Predator, stuff like that. Yeah, that was crazy.
Archie versus Predator. That was a weird one.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks again, guys. And next week, or Friday, I guess, we'll have Season 2, Episode 14.
Episode 14.
And we're going to keep on moving.
Wimatanya.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.